And so how do you know if your relationship with your agency is toxic?
Let's do the analogy of you called an electrician, he's come to your house. In the version of the electrician is your marketing agency or your digital agency.
The top 4 red flags that you're working with the wrong digital agency are probably one.
I would look at when was the last time your agency told you no, that's a bad idea.
Are you swimming with the tide or are you swimming against the tide as an agency? When you're dealing with an electrician, you're not asking them how they're doing the wiring. The same relationship should be the same with your digital agency. Typically, clients that we see who outperform compared to other clients are the ones that are a little bit.
That's true. I mean, that's probably even a question. Like in terms of having a great relationship with a client and an agency, we find we can often get bogged down in asking questions. You've got a great analogy about you call an electrician to your house.
Yeah.
What do we see a lot of client agency relationships look like in that?
Yeah. How do you know if your agent? Sorry. How do you know if your relationship with your agency is toxic?
Yeah,
Because from our perspective.
I like that. I like that. So yeah, let's do the analogy of you called an electrician, he's come to your house. In the version of the electrician is your marketing agency or your digital agency. And now you stand over their shoulder while they do their work. And what else you're questioning what tools they're using.
Yeah. So I think. Sorry. Is that the question?
Yeah.
We're going to answer that question. I think when you think about the relationship that you have with your agency, it needs to be one of that you trust their abilities to do the job effectively. So you like when you're dealing with an electrician, you're not asking them how they're doing the wiring. The same relationship should be the same with your digital agency, provided that your key metrics are being achieved and that there's some transparency in the information as to what's happening. You should take a step back and not worry about how they're setting up ad accounts. The types of detail, getting into the weeds, that's not really beneficial to your outcomes. And it means that every minute that's spent having those conversations with you isn't having high value conversations. So in that sense, with your electrician, you want to make sure the lights work, that they turn on, that nothing's going to burn your house down. That's kind of the same with your digital agency. You want to make sure that all those key things are in place and understand what their thinking is and their rationale is, not what they're actually doing at an ad account level or, how they write ad copy or, even how they design creative and who's doing that work. Provided that you're making progress, try and keep things strategic and high level and you'll end up getting better results. Typically, clients that we see who outperform compared to other clients are the ones that are a little bit hands off. They definitely keep us accountable for financials, growing, making the connection between revenue, profit, and ad account metrics. But they don't particularly care about the ad account metrics being a specific number. They don't care about ad accounts being set up a certain way. We don't have those conversations with high level clients. So I'd have a think about that if you're in that role where you're having that conversation with your agency. Maybe that relationship isn't the right relationship and you don't have the level of trust you need. That's probably a point that I'd suggest thinking about, are you working with the right agency and maybe having some conversations.
Yeah, I think the North Star, if we keep with the electrician, is you want to say which room you want things in. So which might be your target customer, might be your product, might be your geography. And you want to paint a very clear picture of what that looks like. Is it an ornamental light? Is it a down light? Is it 6 lights? Is it sensor? Those sort of things at a strategic business level. So we want to grow in the UK or we want to grow with this new product arm of what we're doing. But then if you sit there and start asking questions, think about how much longer it would take that electrician to get the job done and how much smaller amount of time they have to actually go and do the work. What I can fully appreciate is where that comes from, is being burnt before. Unlike electricians, unfortunately, digital agencies, you can open a laptop tomorrow and say, I'm an expert. There's no 4 years.
Dodgy wiring anyway. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's the dodgy wiring.
Well, at least that fraternity has some level of certificates, maybe over and above. So maybe without going into an ad account, you're a marketer at a brand. How would you know whether your agency is a certified, up-to-date, modern media buyer, creative-focused agency doing the things it should? So you don't have to waste your time in the ad accounts and checking change history. Like, how would you know, or what are the signs you can tell from outside an ad account as to, do you have a good agency managing this stuff today?
Absolutely. So the first thing is allow time to progress. So we're not magicians. We don't turn things around in 1 week. Often the conversations will be with businesses that are having a difficult time. And to some degree, you need to appreciate it's a ship. It turns slowly. We learn things. We also make mistakes and things don't work. And that's why, effectively, using that electrician analogy again, we have a tool belt. So there is not one way that's right. If the way that is our preferred way doesn't work, we have other options in our tool belt to investigate and try. So quite often that can take 2, 3, 6 months, depending on what the problems are or the level of knowledge from the business as well. Like sometimes those problems aren't evident for a couple of months. So that's number one. Allow the time to progress. The second is around make sure you're having the right conversations to start with. So spend your time thinking about, are we generating the KPIs that we're expecting through our partners, including our digital agency? If not, then what's the next tier down of conversation that we need to have to make sure that they're the right partner? And then also understand the right partner. You might need somebody highly technical because there is some reason that you have um, systems that really require a very technical level of understanding. The likelihood is that's not the case. So you should be thinking about the marketing side of how an agency thinks. So what is it that they are doing from an ad platform perspective? Are they really technical? Is that their strong suit? Or are they more creative and marketing led? And that would be more inclined to lead toward where the ad platforms are going today. So, are you swimming with the tide or are you swimming against the tide as an agency? And if you're trying to be super technical and all the ad platforms are making things harder for you to be technical and more algorithmic based so that, creative's auto generated, the targeting's auto generated, well, is that the right partner for you? Look, it might be in some circumstances. I'm not saying that it's not, but for the majority, you kind of need to swim with the tide. So, ask your agency how they're swimming with the tide. Is that through creative? Is that through marketing and positioning? Is that through some other ways? I'd suggest taking that approach. And then you can kind of get a good feel as to how they align with your objectives as a business as well, and then their rationale and how they're swimming with the tide.
Yeah, I think anyone that's pretending or advertising that there is one way to grow a business, and let's zoom in more specifically, I would say where we're hitting a large amount of clients coming to intentional right now. And if I look over our journey, we've been very good at doing business turnarounds. So you've either had plateau performance or it's declining, and what you once did is no longer working. So let's zoom in specifically in that account. What we often see is clients have jumped to a coaching program, a freelancer, or an agency with a 5-letter acronym in the hope that going to a standard structure that everybody else is doing, that brands that you like have done before, will somehow solve the problems of the marketing. The marketing, it amplifies the good and it amplifies the problem. So I would be looking for a strategic partner that's talking to me about my business, what we were saying before, not just purely listening and doing exactly what you say. You don't want an order taker. So if you said t-shirts is our best product, that's good. The agency can work off that. But if they're not coming back and saying, actually, we did some further research, here's what we found, it might support t-shirts. I would also be looking for competitive insights. So if you're not getting someone that's saying, hey, here's what else is happening in the market, that would be a big, big red flag for me from being outside the ad account. The other one is, do you even have access to the ad account? While we're encouraging you, you shouldn't have to measure or you shouldn't have to manage a relationship with an agency in an ad account. Not having any access to that, I would say, is another red flag of like, you still want to own that data and know what's existing there. There's still big holding companies and other agencies that kind of keep that ad accounts out of your reach. But I would be very, very wary of any program, any person or any agency that is telling you that there's one way or there's a perfect structure to do it. And particularly if that way is telling you increased spend without a view. And then talking to, if you're in a business or you're in a brand right now as a marketing manager that has decline or flat revenue, and you've got a CMO or a CEO or a founder that's coming and telling you, here's the revenue we need to hit. This is probably the biggest tension point with an agency, is the way you're going to get the most out of the agency is bring that forecast when it's at a forecast to the agency and have a conversation. What percentage of this could be driven from ads, from organic, from email? What else can we be doing to get to this number? but then don't hold an agency to an unrealistic number. Going back to our electrician analogy again, if they come in and tell you it's going to cost X amount to do the full sensor lights and the latest down lights, I'm going to lose my analogy soon, but don't set an unrealistic number. And for some reason, this seems to be more plaguing for businesses that are plateauing or declining, that have a tendency to set an aspirational number. You just take out the positive momentum out of the relationship. When you're actually getting good results, it doesn't feel that way. And that is an important part of a good client and agency relationship, is celebrating wins, getting momentum and building upon that, particularly if you're in a turnaround phase, potentially because when you're growing, it's easier to predict the next month. But if you're not able to use an agency that is helping you with forecasting, I would be having question marks around what they're doing if they can't help you figure out. If they're just, yes, I'm taking orders, or just aiming it blindly at an MER number without telling you what it will cost, I'd be very wary of that.
The top 4 red flags that you're working with the wrong digital agency are probably, one, that they're not talking to you about creative yet. So if they're entirely dependent on you to provide creative and aren't providing creative insights, that is a huge red flag. The second one is that you don't own the ad account, so they control it. And if you ever leave that relationship, you don't own the data. The third is around really talking to you on a routine basis around change history in the ad accounts. Things have gone up, things have gone down, and they're not providing you with the strategic advice in those meetings. The fourth is not talking to you about AI, how it's affecting media buying, and how you can benefit for it for both your business metrics, understanding your products range and or service range, and also being able to use it from a creative perspective. The ad account platforms these days basically tell you whatever you want to hear, and are more grabby than ever before on revenue that previously wouldn't have been attributed to them.
Out of left field way to tell whether you've got the right agency was, when was the last time they told you no? Something I hear often from our clients is that they really value the fact that we're engaged in the North Star strategy, so that we'll actually say no to things. Sometimes internally things can feel like a massive deal. There's a new product range, or there's a new store opening, or something can feel very, very exciting. And the worst thing that you could do is pop that in an ad account and run it for 1 week, or turn off other ads to show this. So I would look at, when was the last time your agency told you no, that that's a bad idea, because you want someone that is confident enough and believes in your brand and your strategy enough that they're invested, that they're willing to make themselves a little bit awkward for the long term of a relationship. So ask yourself, when was the last time I said no? If they've said yes to absolutely everything that you've done, I'm sorry to say you're unlikely to be the expert in the ad account and everything else you're trying to do in your day-to-day job. So it's probably a very out of the norm red flag. Obviously they're saying no to everything, and we can't do that. It's not in our structure constantly. That's probably not good, but not every idea you have as a marketer is a good idea to put into the ad account.